of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Ripple out the energies of love with a Butterfly Effect radio show. And your host, Ginger Quinlan.
Hello. Welcome everyone back to the Butterfly Effect show here on parax.com. I hope you had a lovely Wednesday. And I thank you for tuning in to tonight's show. And, ooh, what a show we have for you tonight. I'm just going to jump right in and tell you how ecstatic I am to bring you this very accomplished, multi-talented, wise man onto the Butterfly Effect. So let me just share a little bit about Robbie Thomas, who's going to be here tonight. He's an accomplished, world-renowned, best-selling author, screenwriter, producer, and a psychic criminal profiler. He actively works with different law enforcement agencies and families internationally on murder and missing persons cases. Robbie has worked with many integral individuals within the paranormal community and starred in 2 critically acclaimed hit movies. He's also been on several one-hour television specials that have been shown on NBC, CBS, ABC, CBS Radio, CTV, Rogers Television, and a host of other stations. Robbie is also a professional motivational speaker and is an expert in the metaphysical, spiritual, and paranormal industry. He speaks on various topics within the field of work and that of psychic profiling, working on murder and missing persons cases. His credibility is not only working with law enforcement, but that of film and television, which keeps him very busy and being sought after by many others for his expertise. He's featured in so many magazines, such as TAPS Paranormal Magazine, Suspense Magazine, Pennant Magazine, Unexplained Paranormal Magazine, and the list goes on. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Robbie Thomas to the show. Hi, Robbie.
Thank you for having me. What an introduction.
Thank you for being here. I'm just so excited to talk to you because you're just so multifaceted in the things you've worked on and the experiences you've had. It's very exciting for me to speak with you and share you with my listeners.
Oh, thank you. And at one point there, I thought you were...
It almost came out musicals. Cool. Very scary. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I like to start off with interviews of people by asking the deep question of, who is Robbie Thomas? How did you discover your path of writing and psychic criminal profiling?
Oh, yeah, writing and that all transpired in the inception of working in law enforcement. I got hired on to be a police officer twice in my early age. I started out at 17 when I did the 3 auxiliaries. The 3 of us went up to the police chief's office, and we were signing papers to go on the force. And then I looked a lot older than my age, and then the chief looked down at my date of birth and said, "Oh, son, you better come back when you're 20." So that was my very first hire and fire immediately throughout the day. So I can say I was, but I wasn't. And then second time I got on the force, it was a town out of Toronto, just outside of Toronto. And it's a long story, but my very first movie I'm in, it details what happened after I got back from doing the exam and being hired on in this precinct. Now, it's about firefighters, EMTs, and police officers who quit under duress. And I wasn't really stressed out. What the problem was is when I got home, this lady was screaming accident. And so I hopped the fence, and she was pointing down the laneway. So I ran, following the townhomes, and the road curved to the street. So I'm obviously thinking car accident, blood, something's wrong here. And I see this gentleman, he waves me over, and he's standing at a sliding door at the opposite townhouse. So I run back, I did like a jaunt back, and he grabs me, pulls me into the house, and I see this lady running around the table screaming. This other gentleman holding a doorknob, and he waves me over now. So I walk over to him, but at the time I'm walking over, I'm looking on the floor for blood because I'm still figuring accident, something's going on here. He grabs me, opens the door, shoves me in, and shuts the door. So I turn around, but I'm still, again, looking down, looking around, and then I look up, and there's this gentleman sitting there, and he's dead, and he's looking directly at me. And so instinct takes over, CPR, the vitals, that type of thing. So I go to resuscitate. And as I'm feeling for vitals for this gentleman, and I hear, "Let me go." And then I step back for a second. I thought to myself, okay, I heard that, but no, I didn't really hear that. So I go back to do CPR. And as I'm going to do that, I hear it really loud, "Let me go." So then I step back and I look, and his lips are blue, and I'm looking right into his eyes, and I know he's not there. He's gone. There is no pulse. There is nothing. I walk out, and I'm a little taken back by what happened and transpired. And then, make a long story short, I call up the precinct where I was, and I told them that I no longer wanted to be a police officer or hired on. So what they did was they sent a film crew down, and the captain and the sergeant showed up from that precinct in my living room with the film crew. And they're filming this series of films for, like, again, EMTs and firefighters and police officers who quit under duress. Mm-hmm. But then when I started to explain what took place and what I heard, you should have seen their jaws. I mean, they were literally on the floor, and they couldn't believe what I was telling them. They were looking for tears and a frantic individual, but it wasn't. I was just explaining what took place, and I knew it would come full circle and go in a different direction. And that's where it all transpired for me. And going back 23 years ago was my very first case that I was involved in.
Wow. And were you able to see the dead before you were a policeman? Were you aware of that?
Oh, absolutely. Going back even for, like, my childhood. Mm-hmm. And my mother was very intuitional. And telling her at age 3 and 4, roughly in that age area, where I would write a book, I would be in a movie. I told her I would go on television. And sure enough, here we are, several books later, many television programs and several movies, and come full circle. Seeing the fact of that saying, seeing dead people. Going into my adolescence, I write it in my very first book that came out in 2003, 2004 area, where if my peer section would find out what I was going through, my life would be crushed. So as an adolescent growing up, it was very difficult in holding this in, and knowing that being visited by the gentleman who lived in the home, who died in our home, it was amazing. And sitting there and listening to the messages, and then at one point he told me Mr. Leach was going to pass away, Mr. Whiting's going to pass away, and I can't recall the other gentleman's name, but they lived in houses directly across from ours. They were all best friends, the man in the home that I lived in and the 3 gentlemen that are offset from our house across the street. Well, sure enough, Mr. Leach got cancer. And I remember him coming, sitting on the porch as he walked across the street holding his pants up. And he got so thin, so frail. And I used to stare at him, and I just knew inside, listening to the gentleman who died in our house telling me about this, and then he passed away. And then Mr. Whiting had a heart attack, and he passed away. And this all within this summer, a short period of a month and a half, 2 months. All these 3 gentlemen died, and it was just amazing. And explaining that to my mother, my father would say, "Oh, just let it go. They won't bother you no more." And it was amazing because one would take the nurturer side of it, and the other one was so hard nosed and didn't want to get involved too much into that. But yeah, growing up was very difficult. Trying to keep it to myself, and then later on, just coming out straight out and doing what I do.
Wow, and that got you on your path of doing all these amazing things that you do now.
Yes, and it's helping families and families first. And, today is the actual anniversary of a case, little Victoria Stafford, a young 8-year-old little girl who went missing here in Ontario, Canada. High-profile case. She went missing April 8th, and today's the 10th when I got involved and started to assist with the police and family. Yeah, and I love that family. I hold them dear. They write me all the time, and like I'm adopted, to their family. They're beautiful people. So I look at her and the inspiration that angel gives me to continue on, and looking back at the fact that all the information that transpired between the detectives in-house and the family, and sitting with the family and the police, and then now 2 individuals are in jail for life. Will never get out for what they did. They'll never harm another child ever. Good.
That's beautiful. So it's full circle time for you.
Full circle time today for me.
Awesome. So how difficult is it for you being a psychic profiler? I mean, you have to look at really dark things when you do that.
Yeah, you do. And keeping in light with Victoria today being her anniversary, or the anniversary of this whole case, I started doing my drawings 2 days prior to her going missing. And I was explaining to my wife about, there's a young girl, blonde hair, going missing, the tree line, the huge pile of rocks, the wagon wheels. And I didn't understand the wagon wheels, where the wagon wheels would come in, but there were so many of them. And horses and pulling these wagon wheels. If you drove down towards the huge pile of rocks, turned right, and went down that laneway, the huge pile of rocks would be on your left. The tree line was only 10 feet from that, if that. And that's where the Mennonite village, and they would drive their horses, and they would drive down that lane with the buggies. So, you look at that, and in hindsight, you wish you had a little bit more clarity, if you will. But it was coming in very strong, and right up to the point where I handed the drawings to the family, which went to the detectives, and then went in-house and talked to the detectives. And when they put up on... I remember sitting in the police station, and all the media was there, and they were looking at the film footage of of the woman who led Victoria away from the school. And it was very grainy, very, very difficult to make out, but you can make out Victoria and an adult figure. And she was walking her away from the school. And I remember sitting there, and they're saying, "We're looking for a woman." And I said, "No, you're looking for an older man and that woman." And they couldn't put an older man and a woman together. And sure enough, as we sit here and we know now the case is unfolded, that there was an older man and the younger woman. The characteristics in the profiling which I went through was the fact I spoke about and wrote out her drug addiction, her wanting to prove a point with this gentleman, and to get into the very dark details of how Victoria passed away, and telling that to the family. It is very difficult. And and when we talk about it here, it's very daunting.
I would think so. Very dark energy to have to look at and feel and express. That would be so hard. It tugs at my heart when you talk about it. It's like, ooh, the things you must have gone through. So when you get those impressions, do you have the families contact you most of the time, or do the police just know that they can call you up and say, "Hey, come help us"? Or how does that transpire in your life?
Yeah, it's, one point it was like a 50-50 type thing. People say, "What's the percentages here?" It's the family will discuss. There's several cases that are waiting now. in my file that I have, and I'll just reflect to them right now. The family would call and say, we've already spoken with the police. They're okay. They're on board with this. Can you come and help us? So it's a collaboration of them speaking, getting permission. They break the ice, write me. So it's permission granted through the police, because they just don't want anybody to come in on cases. They want somebody who's going to be able to at least represent or have the credibility to do something. And that's what I strongly feel. And I also suggest to families out there, just don't run up to somebody and say, I want, because calling yourself psychic, help me. Speak to the police first. Police are number one first. Get that corroboration going and take a look where we're going from there. They okay it, because as soon as you bring somebody's name up, they're going to immediately check out that individual thoroughly before they give you any say go ahead or what have you. That's the best part and best advice I can give any family out there who are tuning in, who have missing children or are looking for closure in a case.
That's terrific advice. Terrific. I have people ask me all the time who have missing children or missing family members. There's so many missing right now. How can I help find them, or what do I see? And I always, and we talked about this on Sunday when I first talked to you, I always kind of hedged at saying, I just want to give you this information right now, because there is that liability on the medium or the psychic's end where you're not talking to the police with them, you're just talking to the family. So there's always that liability aspect. And I think for you, because you have that police background on top of it, which I think is fantastic, you know the ins and outs of dealing with them and making sure that your butt's covered so you're not in big trouble with what you say, correct?
Yes, you have to have the fallback, if you will. And it's only logic sense, really. If you're going to say something, you better be sure that you're not putting yourself in a legal matter and turning out that the legalities can backfire on you. I've seen it. I've seen it over the years many times. And not only that, seen it where people ask me questions, how do I fix this?
Welcome back to the Butterfly Effect radio show here on ParaX.com. We are talking to best-selling author and psychic criminal profiler, scriptwriter and producer, multi-talented man, Mr. Robbie Thomas. Hi, Robbie.
Hello, welcome back.
So we were talking about psychic profiling before Skype decided it was going to upgrade itself. And I wanted to ask you, when I was writing down questions, this question kept popping into my head, and I thought, should I ask you this or not? But it kept coming back over and over, so I'm just going to ask you, do you believe in evil?
Yes, I have 2 children, and yes, do I believe in evil? Evil that men do. People often ask me that, and that's a great question. When we live our life as it is here, the aspects of good and bad, everybody has good and bad in them. It's the intent and how you take that within you, and you can do well by others and yourself in life. If you do the intent of evil, if you will, it will transpire, and it's the evil that men do. Now, people say, well, there's malevolent forces out there. If you've had the opportunity to sit down and really see people who have passed on that want to be connected, let's say, and you're the catalyst, they're going to transpire a message through you, if you will, because they're provoking you. You're not provoking them. They've already transplanted that thought of you're going to this place or you're going here. Spirit's free will everywhere. The thought of different levels of consciousness and planes in our life. We live on this plane, and there's different levels. Spirit is, if you take like an atom, and it is part of a huge particle, and it's beyond the scope of thinking. So when we talk about evil, and people say, well, I got pushed, I got touched, I'm seeing things, and it's going, you're not responding properly to the individual on the other side. Yeah. And therefore, they want to be acknowledged. They're not just a ghost. They're not just an entity. They're a person on the other side. As if you come into my home, in my living room, you disrespect me, I'm going to get upset. So therefore, it's the same thing with them on that lines. There's a lot of education that needs to be done in the paranormal. No one has all the answers. I had a great interview in one of the magazines that I'm in, and they said, should there be guidelines and stipulations for the paranormal? And I said, no, because we're all students. There's not one person in this paranormal realm that has all the answers. We're all learning and continually learning. So therefore, those who can sit and say they're on the other side, there's people, and they want to be acknowledged in compassion and love, not just go in and, hey, who's here? Ghost. And it's very disrespectful. It's very, a different way of looking at things. Now people say, well, how do you know? Well, when you're doing a murder case and the little boy's dead and he gives me the murderer's name, and they go down and knock on that guy's door, and he's in jail for life now, and his name was Cecil. It wasn't a Bob or a John. His name was Cecil New, and they went and got him December 6th and put him in jail in Kentucky. He's there for life. This is the other side speaking, and you can hear them and you can see them. So there's a differential of just saying, okay, it's a ghost. It's not. It's a little boy, and he's trying to convey a message. And so that's the equate I can give to everybody out there who's tuning in. We're all learning and take a little piece of this, a little piece of that, and we work together in a common goal.
Beautiful answer. Beautiful. I always say when I watch some of the paranormal shows where they're in places and they kind of invade them and speak disrespectfully to the ghosts, the energies that are there, I always think to myself, you wouldn't walk into your mother's house who might have passed away and do that. Why would you do it in their house?
Absolutely.
And I always find that so like an affront to the energies of the people who are living there, even if they might have not been nice people, but you know, you wouldn't walk into your neighbor's house who might be a not very nice man and start yelling at them because they're going to hurt you. So why do it to the other side? I never understand that. And I appreciate you saying that in the manner that you did, because it was said so eloquently and to the point. Yay for you. So how do you feel about some of those TV shows where they show those interactions and people are getting hit and scratched and punched?
My first television show I was on was 10 years ago. And I did a 1-hour special out of the capital of Canada that would syndicate it all through Canada many times. And it got shown in parts of the United States. One of the major players in the paranormal field called me up, and he watched that show. It was amazing to have a conversation with him. And we were talking, and he says to me, you know, on my one hand, I can count how many people are really actively working in the paranormal. And I said, you know, in Canada, I can do that too and cut it in half, and that's probably what you got going on in Canada. And, you know, then all of a sudden there was just a vast explosion of people going out there wanting to know more about fantastic, you know, and it's good, and we're educating ourselves. But, you know, you look at the shows that are on television. We discussed that as well. Mm-hmm. And I've dealt with a lot of producers. I've been casted for like 6 different television shows. So, you know, you look at what has transpired in the, and I hate using terminology, but we got to use it to identify what's going on. The ghost show market, you know, and you talk about, I've been in movie 2005, Dead Whisper. Mm-hmm. We filmed it way back then. I come off the Natalie Holloway case in Aruba, and one of the producers said, you know, what are we going to do? And said, let's go shoot Ghost and Legends. That was the actual name of the movie. And we filmed roughly 18, 20-hour days for 7 days. And out of all the cameras rolling, and you know, you would catch a little thing here, a little thing there. But what you see on TV, what's transpired, and they have to get these things shut down within 3 days of filming or 2 days of filming, and they're piecing it together. It's entertainment value, and the producers will tell you that. It's 99% entertainment.
Yes, I had a producer, actually a manager, who wanted to be a producer, asked me if I was on TV, how scary could I be? And I laughed and said, do I sound scary? I mean, do I even come across a little incy-weensy bit scary? And he laughed. He said, well, no, we'll have to work on that. And I walked away shaking my head going, no, we don't have to work on that because that's not what I do and that's not how it is.
No, it's not. And I remember one producer saying to me, can you fall down and shake on the floor like David Okora? Just do it. It'll be good done for TV. And I said, I ain't doing that. No. There's no way you're getting me. I'm going to do it. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it is what it is. You know, I think people will appreciate more if you show them the fact rather than the fiction.
Yes. Yes. And that brings me into a really nice segue, fact and fiction. Because you have an incredible book out there. Actually, you have 8 incredible books out there, all on Amazon.com. Time Shift the Paradigm. I am reading that book, and I have to tell you, I wish I had more time in my day because I am just devouring it and staying up really late to finish it because it makes me want to turn the page. It makes me feel like I'm in the book, and I can't wait to see what happens next. And it's just amazing. Talk to us a bit about Time Shift.
You know, this was a great piece of work. In the beginning of 2011, I was speaking with a very renowned director who worked with Stephen King on the movie It. Mm-hmm. And also he's done MacGyver, he's done RoboCop. His list of achievements go from the 70s right up into now. In present day, he's got a lot of projects on the go. So his partner or friend, Don Hutchison, who is not only a film producer, director himself, but he's one of the head inventors in America, where he's got patents for ordnance they use over in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's a leading scientist. I mean, he helped also rewrite Homeland Security. This guy's very, very integral. So, looking at this individual and that individual, and we're talking about doing a script. I said, okay, fine. I'm going to write one that's going to be an apocalyptic end time movie script, but it's going to have a huge twist to it. And Don loved it, so I started writing it. But the thing about it was the vision that was coming off the pretense in my mindset was a straight one-time write. Usually when you write a script, you're taking pages out, you're redoing it, you're rehashing a scene, or you're trashing it and you're starting over. No, this was a straight one-time write. And I started to put little notations on Facebook, my page, which people who were listening can go and take a look. March 2nd, 2011, I put in brackets, but the brackets are two arrows pointing to each other, and in the middle I put panic in capital letters and chaos and what's going to happen around the world and yada, 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 and I start naming players and what have you. And then I do that through a course of till the 10th of March of 2011. And my last words, or before that, let's back up a bit. I speak to Don on the phone, and I said to Don, I want to put something in there that's just not heard of. It's a little elaborate, but we're going to put it in. And it's a 9.0 earthquake off the coast of Japan with a huge tsunami. And I see the wall of water, black abyss. He goes, I love it. Write it up and let me hear about it. And I said, sure, not a problem. My last words at the end of the night that I post after everything else throughout the week on the 10th was, tomorrow there's going to be, I predict for tomorrow for everyone, what's going to happen, we have to accept. And sure enough, the very next day, March 11, 2011, the 9.0 earthquake hit, but it was an 8.9, and the tsunami, as everybody knows, all played out. My phone started ringing from the producers and people in Hollywood and what have you. And Don's on the phone. He goes, did you know what you just did? And I said, yeah, I see it. My stomach's on the floor. And then while we're talking, they changed it from 8.9 to 9.0. And it just validated the whole week, 2 weeks prior to all the writing that's in the script, that's date stamped. So in the book itself, Time Shift, the Paradigm, that's the very first synchronicity that came true in the book. There's 6 major events, worldly events that came true, and that's the first one in the inception of that. So I stopped doing the script, started writing the book, and Don made an inclusion in my book describing what I just did talk to you about in the book to validate and corroborate the story. Mm-hmm. Now, as you go on in the book, there's 5 other major elements that come true. I was pushing so hard for Scotty Roberts, Intrepid Magazine, to write my foreword and get it done, and he couldn't understand why I was pushing him so fast, so hard. But I just knew it had to be done because the book had to come out. And so he finally finished it off. He was really busy, and I know I was bothering him. I'm not like that, but I was hounding him daily to get it done. Sure enough, he writes the foreword. I take the foreword, put it in the book. I'm finished. I submit the book. It's released on May 8th of 2012 on Kindle, and then May 10th it was released in the morning on paperback. My cover of my book, you see the world burning through the Mayan calendar. So that's significant in itself, because on May 10th, late afternoon, breaking news, and CNN and worldwide was scientists found the 14th, or the complete calendar, which there was none before. And so it was the complete calendar of the Mayans, and meaning that we go from the 13th Baktun to the 14th. So by having me have the world burn through the Mayan calendar and then having it released, that's the second one of the second inceptions that came true.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's been many more through that book that are just mind-boggling themselves, right up to the meteor in Russia. Now, I'll skip right over to the sixth one. Fire in the sky. I put down a town outside of Moscow, and I named the town Domansk, but it was Chernyansk, and the last letters in both names are identical. I say buildings reduced to rubble, and this is the terminology that was in the news, and it was buildings reduced to rubble. Many people hurt, hundreds. Well, it was 1,200 people that were hurt. And then fire in the sky, which was the meteor. But here's the real clicker that, I'm still shaking thinking of it. But in the scenario on page 40, 41, 42, and 43, where I write, the Russian government is pointing fingers at the United States government, saying they're using HARP, or which I termed the Solaris program. And the individual that's pointing the fingers at the American side, the politician from Russia, his name would be Igor Vladimir. Well, it turned out in real life, his name is Vladimir, and his son's name is Igor, who runs his political party. So it's all right there, and it's all come true. These are like visions, and the funny thing about this is they all come true in chronological order of the book. So there's like 3 other ones in there I didn't talk about, but they all come true. And then there's more of late that's happening where I say in the Arctic, and in the book, and I don't want to give a lot of it away because you're reading it,
right?
But in the Arctic, the scientists there are taking data, and the pressures are dropping, and a lot of the things that they're talking about now in the news. You have to remember the book's been released, over a year, and they're talking about the data right now. And then I changed where the next huge earthquake will be, and tsunami and the destruction, and it's because of what's going on in the Arctic and all the data that they're gathering. And right now in real life, it's been the lowest they've ever captured. The pressure has been the lowest it's ever been, and it's creating this side effect in where I don't want to give it away, and I don't want to spook people. But if you go and take a look at the book, and you go to my blog, or just go to timeshiftthebook.com, and a lot of people can actually go there and read everything that has come true out of that book. It's supposed to have been a fictional story, but actually what it was a vision in place, and I was kind of aloof to what was going on, but I just kept writing. And again, when you write something, it's not just a straight one-time write, but there was nothing taken out or what have you. Get to the end of the book, I didn't have an ending. I did not know what to do. I sat there, I looked at my wife, and I discussed this with her for a day or two, and I was thinking I did not have an ending. Everything up to that point, and all of a sudden it was blank. And then it was all mass destruction and a lot of different things that have come true, like the find in Peru. I mean, these are great things that are on there. The parallel universe that was discovered with the scientists in November, and I talk about the word and the wording. Now you're gonna have this will make chills go down your spine when you take a look at the wording in the book. It's the exact wording that's now being played out in news articles, like the mirrored image, and that's been termed inside the book. And then scientists have used that term where they say the mirrored image of a world like ours and in the parallel universe. Well, these are the type of terms I'm using in the book.
I have to say, reading this book, a lot of times you read a book and you're kind of an observer of the book while you're reading it. This book, I feel like I'm in the book and I'm in the pages going along with everything you write. There's a definite, very cool energy that comes up when you read this book.
Yeah, it's I call it the living history. Mm-hmm. Mark Tillman gave me a call about 4 weeks ago, and we're talking on the phone. And again, Mark Tillman did it with Stephen King and a lot of different other movies and projects. You can Google him, Mark Tillman. And he says to me, this book is just phenomenal. I can't get over it. And he goes, we have to move fast on this before other things start happening and coming true. And I said, well, you better hurry up, because now they're finding out things in the Arctic, and it's all written down in the book, and it's, you know, it stems from that to the next point, and then there's more. There's a lot of twists in it, and it's just like a real life playing out history, and it's been written out for us. And
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. Did you feel like you channeled it because you had to write it quickly and with so much intensity and no rewrites, that it just had to be done that first time right?
Yeah, you know, when you say it like that, and as you can hear in my voice, that's exactly what it played out as. But being aloof to it in the beginning, and then writing it out, and then looking at all this that was done, and I was sitting there going, this is just phenomenal, because this is just not a story. This is something that could really happen, and it did. You know, and it's amazing. Spirit moves in mysterious ways. That's all I have to say. So
you're parallel to a modern day Nostradamus with your predictions that are coming true.
Well, I don't want to categorize that, you know.
It's parallel, very parallel. And I have to say also, while I'm reading, the same kind of energy I feel when I read things like Course in Miracles or Conversations with God, all those channeled books, there are places in your book where I actually felt like my energy went up in vibration, and I kind of felt all lightheaded, and I was reading and going, okay, this is really channeled. There's a whole bunch of really high vibrations in this book.
Yeah, you know, at times when you're talking about that, when I got to certain places like in Peru, you know, and the greatest thing about this is I'm finding there's professors out there. One individual who is a researcher emailed me a link and goes, here's another uncanny prediction of yours in your book that's come true, and he emailed it to me, and I thought, wow, you know, they're watching this book, and I took a look at the link, and sure enough, the exact wording of the find in Peru, where I say the sealed wall, the temple, going in, and I describe each room and what's going on with these folks that are going in this temple. It's exactly what was put out on the news article months and months and months later.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Get the book. If you're tonight, those of you that are listening, if you have not read this book, read this book. It's incredible, I have to say. So I want to switch gears really quickly and take you into your dark side, because I want to say I love your horror, paranormal trilogy, Parasylum. Oh my goodness, if you want a scary, freaky, good paranormal horror book to read that will make you feel chills up your spine and make you go, what? Read those books too. They're awesome.
Yeah, you know, my dark side. Yes, you know, these are, again, the Parasylum, it came to fruition through the inception of Paranormal Encounters. I wrote Paranormal Encounters where went back about a decade, a little more than a decade of me doing investigations throughout North America. That's Canada and the United States. You know, from Perryville Battlefield to Al Capone Speakeasy in Chicago, the Studebaker Mansion. No one's ever been able to go in the Studebaker Mansion, film, or do anything whatsoever in that prestigious mansion. And we were given permission in 2005. The curator was very skeptic, but when we walked through, by the time we were done, he was a complete believer. It was amazing. And so that's in the book. And Manteno State Hospital is in the book. You know, and then I took everything from that and then created the fictional horror dark side of Robbie Thomas. And I moved it all forward into the asylum part. So now book one is completely about the inexperienced paranormal investigative team who are lured through spirit to come to this grandioso place of a decaying, dank, dark asylum. And they go in there, and it's a nightmare. It's a dream within a dream that's a nightmare. It's a total mind freak.
I can't read it at night before bed because it keeps me awake and I have terrible dreams. Thank you very much. I love it.
Good.
Because I'm a giant horror fan. I'm all love and light during the day, but give me a good horror movie or horror book, I'm happy.
Yeah, I just went there. I just couldn't help it. I had to go to the dark side. And
how could you not? With doing psychic profiling and seeing the dark things that you see, how could you not go there?
Oh, it's easy, and it truly is. And then going to book 2 quickly. Book 2, you cannot read book 2 unless you read book 1 first, because the mind freak, or excuse the language, the mind screw, as one person put as a review on Parasylum 1, it takes you right into book 2, and then again it's twisted. There's so many twists and turns. You don't know if you're coming or going. And going into book 3, I started a bit more of it again today. I got quite a bit of it done. I'm hoping it'll be done by 2014, and it'll be a little bit bigger, putting book 2 and 1 together so that people can take a look. The series continues on, and I've added a little bit more, and I might have more of a different ending for book 1 and book 2 and book 3. So it's going to be something that people who will grab it, they'll walk away and just love, shaking their heads.
Hey, I'm all excited that you're talking about it and it's coming, because I love your books. They're amazing. And I have to say, there's not a lot of books that I read that make me want to turn the page really fast and I feel like I'm in a frenzy while I'm reading it, but your books do that.
Oh, well, that's cool. Thank you. I never heard of that.
They do. You just want to hurry up and get some more because it's just that good. So we're running out of time, but you have a special announcement about your television show that's coming up.
Yes, I've a lot of people have been waiting for this, and we've America's Most Wanted film crew is filming my series. Award-winning film producers Lamport and Shepard. I created the show in 2006. It's been my baby for all that time, and had to be the right people to put in place. I've sat with every executive from A&E to you name it, and it just has to be right. So these guys came along, and the funny thing was, I was supposed to be on a show with them in 2005, and I turned it down because I was doing a murder case. And then I met one of the producers in 2010 at a charity function where I was the head speaker in Make-A-Wish Foundation for terminally ill children. And then he was there with his one show. And it was just fantastic. And then I sat there for about a year and a bit just, trying to figure what I'm going to do. But, we might have some real good news coming down the pipeline here in the next few days. Keep your fingers crossed. I know there's a lot of families out there who want help finally, and it's coming. The pilot has been shot. There's a lot more filming been done, and it's going to be a series where we put families first, take you on the front lines. I mean, there's times I had a shotgun pointed to my head. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people don't see on TV. This isn't entertainment. This is real, and we're going to go after the bad guys and help families.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so excited for you, and I'm excited that the show is coming on because it needs to show what it's really all about. Really. I have so enjoyed having you on the Butterfly Effect tonight and getting to share with you and learn from you, Robbie. Please come back again because an hour is just not long enough.
You want the dark side or the good guy?
Both. I like both. That's perky.
The dark side. Oh boy, I'm going to hear the rest of that for a while now.
Please come back. Come back and chat with us again. You are always welcome.
Thank you for having me, and I will be back. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who's listening tonight. Remember to go out into the world and share a smile, share a hug, do something good for someone else, and pay it forward. Have a beautiful week, everyone, and thanks for listening. Good night.